The Lost Generation was the post-World War I generation of young men, but specifically a group of U.S. writers who came of age during the war and established their literary reputations in the 1920s. This term stems from Gertrude Stein talking to Ernest Hemingway. "You are all a lost generation." Hemingway used it as an epigraph to The Sun Always Rises, one of his novels that captures the attitudes of a hard-drinking, fast-living set of disillusioned young expatriates in post-war Paris. The generation was lost because its inherited values were no longer relevant in the post-war world.
Ernest Hemingway. He was born on July 21st, 1899. He was an American novelist and short story writer. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1954. He was noted both for the intense masculinity of his writing and for his adventurous and widely publicized life. His succinct and lucid prose style exerted a powerful influence on American and British fiction in the 20th century. In 1926, he published The Sun Also Rises, a novel with which he scored his first solid success. A pessimistic but sparkling book, it deals with a group of aimless expatriates in France and Spain, members of the post-war lost generation, a phrase that Hemingway scorned while making it famous. Hemingway's characters plainly embody his own values and view of life. The main characters of The Sun Also Rises, A Farewell to Arms, and For Whom the Bell Tolls, are young men whose strength and self-confidence nevertheless coexist with a sensitivity that leaves them deeply scarred by their wartime experiences. War was for Hemingway a potent symbol of the world, which he viewed as complex, filled with moral ambiguities and offering almost unavoidable pain, hurt, and destruction. To survive in such a world and perhaps emerge victorious, one must conduct oneself with honor, courage, endurance, and dignity, a set of principles known as the Hemingway Code. To behave well in the lonely losing battle with life is to show grace under pressure and constitutes in itself a kind of victory, a theme clearly established in The Old Man and the Sea. He wished to strip his own use of language of inessentials, ridding off all traces of verbosity, embellishment, and sentimentality. In striving to be as objective and honest as possible, Hemingway hit upon the device of describing a series of actions by using short, simple sentences from which all comment or emotional rhetoric has been eliminated.
The Harlem Renaissance was a modern literary movement that stemmed from the rebirth of African American culture in Harlem, a subsect of New York City. As the sporadic jazz music and Lindy hop spread throughout dance halls and clubs, writers began to pick up the syncopated rhythms and themes expressed in the music. The real jumpstart to this movement was a gathering of all the great African American writers to sit down and have dinner. Writers such as W.E.B. Du Bois, Zora Neale Hurston, James Weldon Johnson, and Langston Hughes attended the event and formed groups such as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP. They began writing about how it felt to be an African American in a predominantly white society, and convoluted traditional forms to fit their idea of what their writing should be. James Mercer Langston Hughes was a poet that began writing at an early age due to inspiration from early poet Paul Laurence Dunbar. He was fluent in Spanish, and before he rose to fame, he worked as a busboy in D.C. While there, he slipped a poem to well-known poet Vachel Lindsay, and she deemed him the busboy poet. Once Hughes rose to fame, he wrote a book-length collection of poems titled Montage of a Dream Deferred. His poem I Too details the struggles of being an African American and pulls from Walt Whitman as an inspiration.
I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful we are and be ashamed. I, too, am America.